In this video, I'm going to talk about why Nate Diaz is a great fighter. It's kind of a Captain Obvious statement, at least to me, but to some people in the comments, they didn't really like that I called Nate Diaz a great fighter, so we're going to explore this topic. So to me, Nate Diaz is a great fighter, and it's kind of a dude statement because the levels of greatness for me starts with talent. You could argue, okay, maybe he's not the greatest boxer. He's weaponized cardio, etc., etc. I don't know a ton about MMA. I followed MMA, but I can't break down MMA. I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not Daniel Cormier. I'm not these guys that are experts at analysis of MMA. I'll watch it from here to there. I like watching the big fights. I can't stand watching the inconsequential fights. It's the exact opposite of boxing with me. I watch developmental boxing all the time. Enjoy it. It's just what it is. I think it got a little watered down. And because MMA got watered down, I stopped being interested because boxing's a bit watered down and I can only watch so much watered down stuff as it is. So, that being said, and with what's said, we will continue on. And Nate Diaz is someone that's lasted 3 generations in this sport. So he started in The Ultimate Fighter. His brother Nick was already an established legend. Nate made his own path, had a career. It was a good, interesting career. Then he beats Conor McGregor. That's like a second career. And now he's on this third era of a Nate Diaz career where he's his own thing. A lot of fans don't even associate him with his brother Nick anymore. When he first came out, it was Nick and Nate, the Diaz brothers. Now Nate and Nick are kind of their own separate things. They're not always together. Nate has his own crew. Nick has whatever crew he has. That alone shows me greatness. When you're able to do this for 2 decades, there's something pretty special about you. Now add to it, beyond just that element, he's weaponized toughness. And in boxing, we always we underrate guys who are physically tough. So Rung Vasai, when he beats Chocolatito, oh, well, he can't be on the great fighters because all he is tough. Salido beats Lomachenko, oh, well, he's not great. He's just tough. Physical toughness, I hate to break it to you, is an elite attribute. Being physically tough, being able to show other people that boxing's a physical sport, that matters sometimes in professional boxing as much as talent. Being physically tough can win fights. Another recent example would be Speedy Ellis versus Royman Villa. Villa, skill set for skill set, is probably not as talented as Rashidi Speedy Ellis, but Villa was able to be a tougher guy in the sense for that fight and outwill him and outlast him. Nate Diaz is a great fighter, as I've shown some of the comments on the screen in the prior, and I'll probably put it up here unless I'm lazy. What makes Nate great is that he's weaponized his attributes of toughness and cardiovascular training. Yes, he's not the most technical guy. Can he do a jab cross and keep his distance like Floyd Mayweather? No. But if you're in a bar fight, you'd probably want Nate Diaz to have your back more than a lot of pro boxers. There's a level of comfort in fighting that Nate Diaz has, and he's fought a lot of legends and he's beaten a lot of legends. So if you're not going to consider Nate Diaz a great fighter, kind of a silly, I guess I could see why a boxing person wouldn't, because there's a level of achievement in boxing you might have to reach. But I think the fact that he sparred Andre Ward and went through what would probably be hell for most of us, there's a level of appreciation and respect that he gets that I think a lot of MMA fighters don't get, because there's a willingness to Nate Diaz to actively pursue the hardest challenges in his era and around him consistently. Now to this fight. This fight is getting really silly to me. There's a level of disrespect that I'm not enjoying with this fight promotion. I think that there's an undertone that Nate Diaz is stupid, goofy, embarrassing, and there's a lot of instigating, trying to instigate Nate to do things. And Nate looks very bored, and Nate looks frustrated at the fact that a lot of these, today at the press conference, there was an influencer guy, I guess, associated with Nate Diaz, who basically kind of said a lot of disrespectful stuff. And this is what Dakota gets at with me. I appreciate Jake Paul for bringing in new fans and training like a professional, but this goofball antics really makes boxing look stupid. Boxing is built on humility because you can die in the ring. And the fact that you have people that have never fought, or if they fight, it's like this once in a lifetime moment where, okay, I'm a tough guy, I did a boxing match, and then I won't ever do it again. It really dumbs down the commitment to the sport someone like Nate Diaz has had for doing this for like 25 plus years. And most of those years are underappreciated in him having to grind to get financial opportunities, which he inevitably got to. I'm not liking it, man. I'm not liking it. It's very, very weird, and I'm sure it's going to be profitable. I hope it doesn't sell as much as Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, because that would be depressing. But I think it's goofy, and I think that when most people were hoping that Jake Paul would antagonize Nate Diaz and Nate would go off on him, I think he's doing the classic boxer trope where he's just holding everything in, and then on fight night, all of his anger is going to be expressed in the ring. Personally, I favor Nate right now in this fight, and I'm very nervous for Jake because I don't see BJ Flores in his corner, and BJ was a very, very pivotal figure in the development of Jake Paul. So to me, this is going to be a tough fight for Jake, and I think that anyone that's underrating Nate Diaz going into it is kind of silly, because Nate is a guy who, coming off a loss, if you're not an experienced professional fighter, or even if you are an experienced one, you have to have a level of conditioning and a level of toughness and comfort in the ring in difficult places. Could Jake land a big punch? Sure, I'm sure he could land a big punch, and anyone can get hit with a big punch, especially someone that's as defensively irresponsible at times as Nate. But if that punch isn't there, Jake can't have these moments, these lapses that he was having against other fighters. Like when he fought Woodley, he slowed down. When he fought Tommy Fury, he slowed down. If you slow down against Nate Diaz, that's what incentivizes him and gets him going. This video is basically a video because I saw some people comment on one of the videos we had made earlier this week, kind of like, no, Nate Diaz isn't a good fighter. Look, bro, I'm defending Nate Diaz. Maybe it's because he's near my area, but he's a very good fighter. And when guys fight for 20 plus years and are a known name in the sport, that speaks to that.